spoon, and always was.
And who gave you the chafing dish?
What?
Who gave you the chafing dish?
My cousin Henry Hooker, whom I was very fond of. I'm sorry that I lost track of him later, but when we moved away from Connecticut, you couldn't keep in touch with everybody. He was a whole generation older, but he was my first cousin. His mother and my father were brother and sister. She was Aunt Anna Hooker to me. Very nice. And Henry was lovely. And Henry was fond of me. He taught me to drive, you know, the black horse. He didn't teach Carol, and he didn't teach Flora. I didn't say anything or know anything about that, but he did teach me. He says, you sit up straight. As if that was any qualification for driving. But I was so proud and peppy. The reason I sat up that way, I did sit up straight, but I mean unconsciously. I didn't do it to show off or be silly.
No,
And
Jeannie Hill does that too.
And
Jeannie does that too.
He must have seen that.
Yeah.
Even when I was getting into a hammock, I was getting in this way with my shoulders up in the air, you know. Oh, Henry was lots of fun. He used to always call me kid. I was about almost 20 years younger than he was. And his sister was 8. He was almost 20 years older than myself, and his sister was 18 years older. Different.
The picture of you in the tree house.
Was it his house?
Was it his house?
His
I thought
father's and mother's home in Berlin, near New Britain. You must have heard of the city of New Britain. It's a manufacturing city, Connecticut. It's in the left, in a pigeonhole towards the left, in the edge, sticking up somewhere. That's all right, you've got it. I'm glad you like it.
That is a wonderful picture. I love it.
What? You like the picture?
I love it. Brookside.
That was the name of their home, Brookside. They all had names, English style. Lovely old house. Oh, yes. Henry didn't marry until very late in life. Well, I mean, he wasn't a boy. Let me see, I don't know how old. He died at 57, which was young. I wish I had a picture of him, but I haven't. He was a very handsome man. Dressed beautifully. He and his father were in the Hooker Carriage Company in New Haven. Made beautiful carriages.
For a commercial?
And they began to make automobile bodies in a carriage factory. That's the way.
That makes sense.
That's the way it was done in the early days. The automobile companies made the wheels and the framework and the engine, and some carriage company made the, what do they call it? Not tonneau, do they? The carriage part?
Yeah, that's right.
Something like that. That was a lovely home. We used to go up there to visit, Carol and I. Brookside. And many years afterwards, when we were driving somewhere, maybe up to your house in Quaker Hill, we went through New Britain and came out near Berlin, nearby town, and I said to Will, let's see if we can find Uncle Albert's home. Now, that was Henry's father, see. And Aunt Anna and Uncle Albert were the parents of Henry. And I said, let's see if we can find it. Well, of course, I didn't remember because I haven't a good sense of direction. But anyway, we asked. And we went to a garage, and quite an old man wearing workman's clothes came out to give us gasoline or something. And I leaned out of the car and said, could you direct me to a place that used to be called Brookside? He dropped both the pails he was holding like this. He says, sir, sure and 'tis many a day since I heard anyone inquiring for Brookside. Did you know the Hookers? I said, yes. I belong to the family. Albert Hooker was my uncle, Oh, is that right? Well, then go so-and-so. We followed the road, you know. And he was still muttering when we left. He was tickled to death.
Did you find the place?
Sure, but it convulsed Newton and Bill, this
I
man.
can imagine.
He yelled it at me, you know.
This is a splendid picture.
Don't
you
you love
just love it?
That's the
Wow.
one Newton loves too.
All we did was
Oh,
see it,
sure.
Carol. We just drove past it and looked at it, this house,
You
you know.
look just like her.
I don't look anything at all like
Yes.
my mother.
Oh, yes,
What?
you do.
What are you saying?
Carol thinks I look like you.
Carol? Wait, yes.
She thinks
This picture.
I resemble you.
When you were about 14,
No way.
Oh,
I
yes,
was
you do.
16 there, but when you were about that age, your father said to me, "Do you realize that Estella looks just like you at that age?"
For heaven's sake.
I said, "Mercy, no, does she?" Why, he said, "Sure." He said, "I can see it." You see,
It takes someone else to see it. People, I know that I look like Mary and Mary looks like me, but I
Oh,
don't
exactly.
see it. No, I don't see it at all.
Oh,
Now,
Carol.
Every
always-
once in a while.
I always
I know.
felt that Mary resembled you, and that Jean took after the Hills.
She does. She
Now,
looks
is
like
that right?
Jeannie
You,
looks.
you have to make your own opinion when you
Why,
Well, I
Jean-
mean, do
They
you
look more and more alike. Mary
Yeah,
and
as
Jean.
they get older.
Jeannie is her father right over again, feminine version.
Hmm.
Pretty as he is handsome. And my blessed namesake.
Oh, do you think Bruce is handsome?
Oh, yes. And crazy, of course I do.
Leave us deal only in superlatives. She certainly
And
does. Well, we both agree on that. We think Bruce is
You
a
look-
fine-looking man.
You look exactly as you have for years. Looked as your mother did at whatever age you were.
Mhm.
If you could figure out such mixed up English as that. I don't know whether I gave that picture to your mother or not. Do you want to ask her? I have a reason for it. That was the back of it. I pasted things on that were taken
Yeah.
after Newton was born.
Is this
And I'm
off
looking
now?
down at the baby in my lap.
You want it off?
Have I given that to you?
You haven't given it to anybody. But
Well,
what we want to do is make one great big grand collection that everybody can enjoy and see and look at, you know, like a big family tree.
Well, all right. That's a good idea.
In other words, among the grandchildren, it's going to be sort of communal property, right?
yeah,
I don't know. This is
you
your
want-
idea. It
What,
sounds
what do you
nice,
want?
though.
An album? Or something to put in?
What do you want?
Well, I thought, I understood you to say to me, I understood you, Carol, to
Yeah.
say to me, not so very long ago, within the last few years, that you would like to have all the information about the family that you could possibly obtain and make out a family chart
Oh, that would be
and
fun.
then
yeah.
find out as much about each person on that chart as you were able to. And therefore, my feeling is that the collection of daguerreotypes and photographs should not be scattered, a piece here, a piece there, a piece somebody
Well,
else.
you're right.
Because
You're-
that is the way the family continuity gets lost.
That's
The
true.
picture of the family is diminished in the scattering.
Have you got the big, heavy album in your room?
What's in it, Mother?
Oh,
family
that has,
photographs.
Yeah, that has the one
Golden-
and only picture of.
It isn't in
Aunt
my, I
Josephine
don't
and
think
things
it's
like
in
that.
maybe she'll find it.
I love that album. Isn't that a beauty?
I
What?
mean the one with the
Yeah.
with the fruit, one with the fruit wood backing.
Has big heavy pages.
Heavy case and a brass thing to clasp it, I think.
It's right here.
I got a couple of Bibles out of your attic from Ivan that have information, a lot of information about the Sharps.
Yes,
Ritchie's.
that was,
Oh, she's so pretty.
that's
Here's
my
Aunt
grandmother
Charlotte.
Ensign as a bride.
Oh,
She
she's
born
so
Charlotte
pretty.
Prescott. Married Worcester Ensign.
That's-
She's the woman that left 12 black satin dresses.
She looks like a child of 16.
Yes, she looks very young. Well, I don't know how old she was when she married
This is your
Worcester.
grandmother?
My grandmother. I remember her well, and I loved her. Now look at this album. Oh, they were expensive
And
years
who's
ago.
this lady?
That's Aunt Charlotte, and she's pretty, Prescott's mother.
Oh,
my
yeah.
oldest sister. Haven't I got her name and all written on the back? Look and see.
Nothing. Big
No.
blank.
You should write on the back. Maybe it's on the back of the... Nope.
Well, I'll write something else on there. That is the dress she wore when she had her coming out party, when she was introduced to society at a big reception that my mother had.
It looks like ivory lace. No bust. Look at how flat that is on the front. Goes straight down.
Oh,
A lot of stitches in that dress.
I can, oh yeah.
and made to order.
And what color is it?
Nile, delicate Nile green, and she was pink and white, and she was a beautiful girl.
And she had, what color was her hair?
Light brown, very pretty. Look at the rose. And the hours I used to stand in front of her dressing table with this rose, or one just like it that belonged to her, in my hand, trying to fix it in my hair when I was about 13 or 14. Then I'd say, Charlotte, I can't do it. What are you at now? Well, I'm trying to arrange. I like that rose. Yeah, I thought so. You know, well, that Mary, it's too big for you. You'll have to have a smaller rose. And she'd get me a smaller rose, show me how to pin it in. Only, of course, I didn't wear my hair up high because I was a kid. She was dear.
And she died very young, didn't she?
Yes, and Prescott was 1 year old.
And how did she pass away?
Hmm?
What was the cause of her death?
I
Do you
think it was
recall?
pneumonia, and I don't know what else, some complications.
She had just had a baby who was born blue.
Yes, yes. She just had a second baby. Nobody could have pulled off such a trick as this if they had tried. The two of us, sisters in the same town, Stamford, we each had a child in 1912 in March. The next March, we each had another. Now that sounds like a whopper, but it was the gospel truth.
Well, at least you had someone to commiserate with.
And she died, and her baby died first. I think the baby only lived about 24 hours, or maybe a little longer. Let me see who that is. Oh, I know, but I can't think of his name. He was Mother's agent.
White. Its name is White.
Oh, certainly. Mr. White in Buffalo, yes.
Let me pull this in so you can get by. Do you want to work in the buffet?
I'm not going to do anything that's clinky, that makes any noise.
You can make all the noise you want. Grandma is wearing my earrings.
Tell the recorder. You don't want background noise.
It doesn't matter. I'll just type it off anyway.
That's my mother when she was...
Oh, I made you put these pieces of paper in.
That is...
That's your mother.
The Congress, yes. You want me to write it?
Yeah, sure. We went and we looked at all the jewelry in this book last time we looked at it when I was down here.
1883, that's when she was a bride.
Better put as a bride.
Minnie, her name was Mary Elida. Shall I put that or Minnie Ensign? Everybody knows.
Put it all there.
Minnie Ensign's on the birth certificate, because Aunt Carol has it.
How about
Minnie
that?
A. Ensign.
How about that?
The name of the doctor.
You don't have to whisper. We got a tape recorder so we can get all this information.
Aunt Carol has a very interesting scrapbook that my grandfather had kept. And in it, he had pasted items from the newspapers and little things, inspiring, little inspirational thoughts and things he'd seen and clipped and put in. But he has the press reports for that wedding.
Oh, my gosh.
So what? Trust report?
The press report on grandmother's wedding.
I know.
Who came? Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so.
Wearing?
With diamonds.
Oh, my gosh.
And somebody and somebody else and somebody. And Miss Effie Sperry with diamonds.
Oh, my Lord, love a duck.
Isn't that something?
Oh, they always did.
Yes.
Oh, my gosh.
It'd be a nice record.
Mother used to say, darn fools, they put them on just so that would come out in the paper what they were burying, and her eyes would snap, you know. But she did it herself, along with the others. Now look, here it is, Minerva Barnes Newton. That was my father's oldest sister, always called Minnie. And underneath I have written Mrs. N.D. Sperry, and there was her husband.
Put down sister of M.B. Newton. It's right across the top there. That's right. Then we've got
Really
the
ought
entire
to be in the
story.
book.
Yeah, put it on the.
Yeah.
It might as well be written in
Yeah,
here.
it might
Could
even
be.
better be.
That's
in there.
too easily
Right.
lost.
That's right, Mother.
That's N.D.
M.D. Nehemiah Day Sperry. Go ahead.
It's 90 minutes each side of this tape. Is it still running?
No, I flipped it.
Oh, on the second one?
Yeah.
I got 3 more new ones.
I'm going to get something to eat. Do you want anything?
I left that piece of roast beef out. Slice away and take anything else you like, fruit or... I had a piece of whole wheat toast with some sliced beef on it. That's all I'm having. Isn't this fun, Mother?
What?
Isn't this fun?
Yes, loads of fun for me. I hope you're enjoying it just as much.
Oh, yes.
I've written here Minerva Barnes Newton, who married Nehemiah Day Sperry. Now, do you want me to write under that the congressman? Because he's in history, you know.
Sure. All right. Congress from New Haven, 20 years.
16 years in Washington.
All right. Whatever you wish.
Minerva Barnes Newton married Nehemiah Day Sperry, who, let me see, represented New Haven.
What do you use for everyday plates, Mom?
Anything out there is every day. Anything in the kitchen.
Nehemiah Day Sperry.
Take a big blue one. That's always easy to spread out some things on it. And cut up an apple or banana. It's a little large. Not I may have to transcribe this by hand. Down the size of this. Will it go in your cassette? This is for my son.
Yeah, cassette is a cassette.
Oh, I,
Any machine,
it's
any
the standard size.
Yep.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Like
Yes.
the size of the record.
Good.
And we always called him Uncle N.D.
All right, then put down, in parentheses, put down, oh, well, you haven't come to him yet. You're still on who?
Yes.
This is Minerva Barnes Newton. All right, fine. Yeah, well, here's, all right, you can write here, Uncle N.D.,
Yes.
and you can draw a little arrow that points, and then we'll know it's over there.
Uncle N.D. to us all.
Yeah.
Oh, how Uncle Harry loved him.
Mm-hmm. Now, who was the knight?
What?
Who was knight?
His twin brother, born
Yeah,
on the other side of
I
midnight.
can't think of his first name, though.
Uh,
I don't remember hearing much about him.
wait a minute, I'll give it to you in a minute. Ephraim, out of the Bible.
Yeah. Like Nehemiah.
Yes.
I don't know why I was so uncourageous. I didn't name my family. I do like Mary, and I do like Jean, and I do like Jeff, but I wish later that I had named them all their middle names instead of their first names.
Uncle Andy.
And I have Martha,
To us all.
Gordon, and
All
Elijah.
friends.
I just think that they're more
Two.
interesting, but
16 years in Congress.
they like their own. But boy, it's
A darling.
I know it is. That's it. Stop.
Oh, goodness. Previous cottage cheese and they have that.
You stir it? Oh, good. Oh, that Breakstone. It's the best one around here. But the others are all kind of tendency to get wet. Let me get mine.
I looked in that little store for that Hidden Valley Ranch dressing. They didn't have that much stuff in the store. This is the only thing I did all day long, so I was in no hurry. I listened to the butcher tell the lady who was waiting about his daughter.
Well, yeah, these were the insurance company that sent it to me. This is a big excitement in that family.
Totally like it was in Hawaii. That's a nice trip. That'll be a nice trip for you to go visit. You had to tell me all about it.
This meat came out very nice. Didn't it? Lemon pepper? No, you have that.
Do we have that here?
Yes, it's in there. Just swing around. Just twirl it around so you can see it.
Oh, there it is.
If you want to see quality paper, look here. If that isn't quality paper,
That's beautiful.
isn't it? Feel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their oldest son and first child, Worcester Prescott. Not named exactly for his father. My grandfather was Worcester Adrian Ensign, and they named
Worcester
yeah. In a minute,
Adrian?
I'm going to. In a minute, this is Worcester Prescott Ensign. See, the middle name was for his mother's surname.
Mm-hmm.
She was born Charlotte Prescott.
Now you're going to write that on there.
Yes, but that's
Charlotte Prescott. Grandmother's writing.
yes. What does it say? I
It
know
says
why.
mother, 1881.
This is hard to write on.
Sure.
Take
Well, right on the back.
Let's see her.
Give me my glasses from over there.
I'll get them. You can't write on that surface, Mother says.
Look at the jewelry. That's the lady that left 12 black satin dresses.
Oh, that I saw her when she was younger, right here. That's this lady?
1881.
Right.
Yes,
Same
yes,
person?
those two are the same. This one, now let me see. They didn't know how to handle a stroke of paralysis. I think that I'm telling you true when I say that she had 5 strokes during her life and lived to be in the 70s, more than that. Yeah.
Anyway, she lived into old age.
A whole lifetime.
And she had babies between strokes.
She had children and babies between strokes. Isn't
That
that
was handy. The
Yeah.
Lord provides.
And he was awfully nice. That was her husband.
Yeah,
He was lovely.
yeah.
Let me see him.
And this was the couple that went to the theater, doubtfully. Theater? My, better be
The
careful.
road to hell.
I wouldn't want so-and-so to know that I went, you know, but we'll go just the same. To see their youngest child, who was Uncle Harry, dressed as Mikado.
Coco.
What?
Coco.
Coco, that's right, in the Mikado.
We got that too.
And of course he was a sight to behold, you know. And one of them looked at the other and said, "Are you sure he's our child?" and laughed about it, you know. Oh, they loved his fun making.
He's the one that,
But this man had strict, old-fashioned Methodist grandparents that raised the heck when Harry wanted to be a professional actor. He was a born actor.
Road to perdition.
He should have been, but he wasn't allowed to. His son and daughter-in-law couldn't quite go against the old people. They loved them, and they couldn't quite bring themselves to do it. But Harry belonged to the elite of New Haven society. Well, the whole family did. And there was an amateur theatrical crop. I wish I could think of the name of it, in New Haven. And Harry was their best actor.
Oh, there he is,
Yes,
in the flesh.
Coco.
1892. What a great picture.
Yeah.
Oh, was he ever good looking?
Oh, he was. I wish I had a good picture. He was handsome.
Well, you can tell from this. And he has
Honestly,
such a
honestly.
lively expression.
He was.
He looks like somebody you'd like.
Oh, he was a darling.
Looks like
And
somebody I'd like.
yes, you would like him. And he could sing. He could go to the theater, sit in the audience,
Come out
go
singing, huh?
home and play every song that had been played on the stage that night and sung, even if he never heard it before. Now, that's how talented he was musically.
They don't write music like that anymore.
Justine Ingersoll was a society girl and woman in New Haven, and she organized that company. What on earth was it? That went all over the state. Now, I'll think of it. The name of this amateur theatrical company. And Harry was her best actor. See, it says there, Henry Hooker Ensign.
Yeah.
Well, that was his name. And there was a double relationship between the Ensigns and the Hookers because they were cousins and also in-laws,
Uh-huh.
one of them. And I fell heir to his trunk of costumes when he died.
Boy, I wish you had those today.
I do too. They
do
were put
too.
in the carriage house, his trunk with his makeup. And what I did to my face, Mother said, was a caution. With his rouge and paint and all, put it all. I had a mirror out in the barn, out in the carriage house, and I used to sit down on the stool that came with it, set up out the trunk and plaster myself with
Now,
these.
here's my grandmother as I knew her,
Yeah, that's a good picture.
Minnie A. Ensign.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And there she is as a young girl with a black lace jacket on over pink.
That's such a beautiful woman.
She was.
Here.
She was awfully good looking. Oh, she was.
Boy.
Look at the pearl earrings. Now that looks to me just as if she was about to tell a funny story.
I know it does to me, too.
Good.
I like the life around her eyes
Don't
and
get-
the life in her face.
Yes. I bet she told the photographer a story that made him stop for a couple of minutes while he was taking it because she was known to do that.
Oh, I like her hair, too.
Now let me see. I want to get my beloved grandmother's name and history. What is it? Charlotte? Does it say Charlotte? No. Yes, it does. Charlotte. A.P. That's Elida Prescott. See? Ensign. Mother, 1881. Well, she was in the 70s, but I don't know just how old she was when this was taken. And that lace collar came from Paris. It was imported. She bought it in some store in New Haven. If you had a lace thing like that, you took it from one dress to another, Carol. Oh, I loved her. She was awfully nice to me. Now, let me see. Mother, 1881. Alida. Now, that's Jeannie's middle name, isn't it? That's where she gets it. Someday show this to her and tell her. That would
You
be...
gave me a picture
Did I? Of her?
for Jeannie,
Oh, good.
which Jeannie has, and
I'm
it's a
glad I
pretty
did.
picture.
Charlotte Elida Prescott, yes. Prescott. Married. Now this name, Worcester, her husband's first name, is not spelt like the city of Worcester in Massachusetts, which is Worcester, if you pick it out. See, he spelled it W-O-O-S-T-E-R. Married, Worcester. Adrian, Adrian, Sign. And here is his signature over here. Oh, I loved him. I love these people very much. Now what's on the back? Worcester A. Ensign. And under it, Worcester Adrian Ensign. And I want to see what all that writing is. Oh, can you read it?
Yeah, I wrote it. It says, sold iron and carriage hardware to the Hooker Company in New Haven, Connecticut.
Oh, yes, he did, and to many others. Sold iron carriage hardware to the Hooker Company in New Haven, Connecticut. And everybody who worked for him was a friend, from the bookkeeper down to the lowest Irishman that drove the pig iron, which was long bars on a truck that wasn't really a truck. It had front wheels, side bars, nothing in the middle, and extended a long, long distance. And they piled this kind of a rack. The back of this thing was a rack of iron bars, and they piled the pig iron that went crosswise. They piled the bars of pig iron that were going to be melted up into carriage hardware and other things across it, and walked the horses through New Haven. It was so heavy you couldn't do anything else. And they had a couple of huge horses to whom I fed sugar, and I found them in the barn at one side, and the other side of the same building were the carriage horses. 3. 2 were a pair that were driven, and 1 was my grandfather's pet, a magnificent bay mare that had belonged to his dead brother, whose name was Howard Ensign, for whom my brother, of course, was named. Worcester.
Would he ride to work?
What?
Would he ride to work? Did people do that?
In a carriage.
Oh, but
not,
they wouldn't
not on
ride
horseback.
on-
Well, not that I knew. He probably did in his early days. Remember, he was a middle-aged man when I knew him. See. But Dave, what was his name? Dave Dunlay, an Irishman, did everything. He planted the flowers and the beautiful flower beds in star shapes and crescents for my grandmother so she could look out her window and see them. And he also drove my grandfather to work with this beautiful bay mare and a lightweight carriage every day to his office. And he used to talk the way Annie Cotter, our nurse, did. All the servants were Irish, and they all talked with an Irish brogue, and they were all good, respectable, decent people. And my parents and my grandparents both looked after them as if they were part of the family. Always took care of them. If there was illness in that house, go tell Mr. Ensign. Mr. Ensign promptly sent the doctor by telephone. Go down to so-and-so, he's our David, he's our John, he's our so-and-so. And he'd call the doctor by his first name because he'd always known him.
Mm-hmm.
See, they all knew.
So people looked after their own people,
another,
huh?
and they all looked after their own people. Now, they get that from England. I approve of it. I think it's great. But I mean, it was an English custom originally. And even after Annie retired and went to live with her married sister, 25 years she lived with us, Mother kept her in clothing. She always gave her own winter coats to Annie when Mother didn't want them after 2 or 3 years. They were still good, you know, still handsome. And a hat, if it was suitable, and if not, she would send Annie to her milliner or to her hat store or wherever she was buying her hats. Tell them you're Mrs. Newton's Annie. And that was all she had to say, and send the bill to me, Annie. I don't know, do I need a new hat? Irish, you know. I don't know, now, Mama, do I need a new hat? Talking to my mother. Mother say, well, I think you better have one. You go down there. Well, what'll I pay for it? Them people charge too much money to do. Irish. No, Mother said they won't. And they get her a pretty hat, and it was suitable, you know. Mother was awfully good to them. Charlotte and I did it when we were married. We bought Annie a winter coat one winter and fixed her up with a warm dress. We couldn't spend very much, but we got her fixed for the winter one time when Mother couldn't do it.
That's a long time to be part of a family. It's longer than some children stay.
I know it.
25 years.
Why, of course it is. Of course it is.
It's
But
longer
that was,
than most children stay.
dear, that was the old way of doing. Charlotte A.P. Ensign. Now, there's 3 writings on here. I don't know who wrote that. And my mother wrote Mother, 1881, and I've written her name. See? And
I did.
who she married. See what the AP stands for?
Yes,
here?
I do.
Elida Prescott. You
We're
like
having-
this, don't you?
Yeah, we're having fun today.
Sure
We
we
are pinning you down.
What, darling?
We're pinning you
Oh, but
down.
it's such fun to be pinned. I love you so.
Do you, Mother?
I've loved you a long time, darling.
Remember, I'm your Cupid doll.
Yes, that's
the
right.
sweetest and the best, and none like me.
When those Cupids were brand
Just like
new.
my daughter, she's the sweetest
Stella,
and the best,
when
and
the
none like her.
when the Cupids, Stella, were brand new.
Yeah.
And Uncle Doctor, oh, did he
He must
laugh?
have thought that was
Oh,
hysterical.
no, he didn't. He just laughed. He
Well,
knew
that's
we
been
were
taken
having
as
fun.
fun.
He was glad we were. He had a lovely family, too. I was very fond of them all. When he made a business call across the street, I mean a patient, an office, a professional call, when he was through with the people that were sick across the street, he'd come over to our house for some fun in Stamford. What in the dickens was the name of that street we lived on, though it doesn't matter. And he'd open the front door and come in and say, "Any Cupids in this house?" Then he'd chuckle. And I'd squeal, "Oh, Uncle Doctor." And he'd say, "Yes, Uncle Doctor. Now, are you taking good care of this baby, or are you neglecting her?" And then he'd sit down and roar at Carol. And I'd put him right, offer him, he'd hold out his arms like this to hold her. He wasn't afraid of getting mussed up or anything. He always held her, and Bill, too. And one day, Uncle Doctor came in, and a nice greeting I gave him. When I saw him, I said, "Shh, don't you dare make a sound." Now, that was a fine way. Well, he just laughed, and he says, "What's going on here?" Well, I said, "They're both asleep at the same time. The whole house is quiet. Isn't that wonderful?" And he just looked at me. "What are you doing?" "Well, I'm having a wonderful time. I'm making fudge." He just dropped his hat and his bag and everything and sat down and looked at me. I don't know what he thought, but he always came back. We used to have fun.
That's a clue.
And I'd say, "How's Gladys?" That was his oldest daughter. "Well, Gladys is fine. She's so-and-so." Oh, we had lots of fun in spite of the serious cares. We had lots of fun. And that's Uncle Worcester Prescott Ensign, their first child. I think I finished this inscription. Yes, that's all right. But this, darling, Worcester A. Ensign, Worcester Adrian Ensign, at, what is that, at 53, no, at 30, at 53. Isn't it? Look over the word ensign. Do you think that's 53?
The third. It's number 3.
Number 3. Well, then that must, I know what that was. He was the middle child to these people of 5 sons. I mean, his parents were Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Ensign, and this was Esther Forbes's dowry chest, Carol, back of me, and she married Thomas Ensign. That's how old that is. See? So,
Just say it out loud.
She wants to explain it to you.
I heard every word she said.
This is a photograph of Worcester A. Ensign, my grandfather.
Third son of Thomas Ensign.
He, yes, third son
Of
of Thomas and Esther. And I'm going to put
Forbes.
Forbes, F-O-R-B-U-S.
Forbes.
Third son of Thomas and E-S-T-H-E-R, Esther, R-B-U-S.
Forbes.
And this was Esther Forbes's dowry chest.
All right. Say, owner of
Third
old,
son of Thomas.
owner of old chest. Owner of Connecticut chest.
Yes.
This is a Connecticut chest.
Yes, owner of
Four-drawer Connecticut chest.
Connecticut chest.
Mm-hmm.
Then, now, do you want me to write the names of the other sons?
No, I don't want the...
I haven't got pictures of them, but I do know their names.
all right, all right.
Brothers of this man.
All right, all right.
There were no daughters born into that
All
family.
right.
Thomas and Esther.
Just list them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right down there, and Worcester is 3.
They didn't put the word Thomas, first son. They didn't
Just
put,
put number 1 down there, and that leaves you room to say who he married and all that.
they didn't use junior in those days.
Oh, really? That came in later?
That seemed to come in later. Mother told me she didn't know when.
Number 1.
First son of
Just put down number 1. XX num.
number 1.
All right, 1.
Thomas,
Now this is 2. You don't have 2 ones. The second son was who?
let me see, who was it?
Well, there was
Edwin.
Edwin. All right, now put 4 and 5, because we have 3 right here. Just put 4 and 5. 1, 2, 4, and 5. And that gives you all 5 sons.
Thomas, Edwin, Worcester.
There was a Howard, wasn't there, somewhere?
Howard was the fourth.
Yeah.
Howard. Willard. W-I-L-L-A-R-D. Willard.
Uh-huh. All right. That's good. Now, you see, we can find all of them in the Prescott Memorial.
Yes.
They're all in the Prescott Memorial.
Look, Carol.
What's the Prescott one?
That's not...
It's a published book on the genealogy of the Prescott family in the United States. And that included, that came out when I was a young girl, didn't it?
Yes.
I was a child when that was published. Because it brings your names in. But I don't think it brings the names of your generation to whom they married.
No, I don't think it did
Which makes
either.
me think that it was published so that when I was a child and went up and looked at it, Grandmother had noted in her corrections to it.
Good.
This is still running?
Now, how should I just put his name under here properly, Worcester?
Oh, this has been off for quite a while. See? It's on stop.
You wanted it on while I was saying all that, didn't you?
Well, how come it's going around if it's on stop?
What do you mean, stop?
It should be up here, start.
Oh, fine. Don't worry about it.
Worcester, Prescott,
Here,
Ensign.
let's stop it and...
Worcester A. Of Worcester A. All right.
Now, the darling, look at him.
That's my grandfather.
Typhoid fever took all his hair when he was young, in his 20s.
Who is he?
My
my father.
What's his
Oh,
name?
he was dear.
His name was Marcus Barnes Newton. Married Minnie A. and Son.
Precious.
Typhoid fever, did he ever suffer from that later on?
Well,
Did he
yeah.
ever have any recurrences of that later on?
I don't think so.
No?
I never heard of any. But, oh, he was a darling. He had the loveliest disposition. Everybody in New Haven who knew him liked him. They all liked him. He was a dear.
And what was his business? I keep forgetting.
What was his business?
Don't you know?
For 19 years, he went through Yale in the class of 1869. That should have been his graduating class. But he got this fever and he didn't graduate. He got it in about 68 and lasted a long time, see, prevented him from graduating. But he was a Yale man just the same, academic. I don't know whether there was any Sheffield Scientific School at that time or not. I'll have to leave all that out because I don't know. Marcus Barnes Newton. Only 57, much too young.
Like Daddy, 56.
And what business was he in?
I need some sherry.
Oh.
What was grandfather's business?
First, he got his training, as they called it, by going into a bank, and pretty soon he was made teller. You have to have some training before you can hand out money at the window, see.
I would hope so.
No,
Would you
that's
put the
sure.
water on for coffee?
Yeah, I'm getting ice for drinks, too.
And
Okay.
for 18 or 19 years, he was teller in a bank in New Haven. I don't know which one. And then, both he and Mother inherited some money. He from his uncle, and by Jove, Mother from her uncle. Not another uncle, see? From both sides of the family, they got some money. I don't know the dates, but I know the story. And he went into business for himself. As a private banker and broker, he sold what they called investment securities. And I've heard people say to him, Marquis, have you a seat on change? New York Stock Exchange, you know. He said, no, I never did that. I've always been a private banker. But he had a good business in New Haven.